There's a version of you that nobody can shake. A version of you that doesn't flinch when someone comes at you sideways. A version of you that doesn't lose sleep over what somebody said at the office, what some stranger posted online, or what an ex-friend whispered behind your back. A version of you that moves through the world with such quiet certainty that people feel it before you even say a word. That version of you isn't some illusion. It's not reserved for celebrities, billionaires, or people who had a perfect upbringing. It's available to you right now. But to reach it, you've got to be willing to unlearn almost everything society taught you about how to react to people. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of what you were taught about strength is completely reversed. You were taught that strength means speaking up, defending yourself, pushing back, proving your point, making sure people know they can't walk over you. And because of that, you've spent years, maybe even decades, wasting your most valuable resources on people and situations that were never worth it. Every time you fired back at someone who wasn't worth your time, you gave them something they didn't earn, your energy. Every time you stayed up at night, mentally replaying arguments, you handed your peace of mind over to someone who probably forgot what they said the very next morning. Every time you bent over backwards explaining yourself to people who never planned on understanding you anyway, you gave up a piece of your power. That stops now. What follows are 7 psychological laws, principles that Machiavelli studied, refined, and applied over 500 years ago, and that the most strategically powerful minds in history have understood ever since. These principles will completely shift how you operate, not by turning you into a cold, emotionless machine, not by making you distant or difficult, but by making you genuinely untouchable, by putting you in control of every interaction, every relationship, and every situation in your life. Your attention is the most valuable thing you own. Most people believe their most valuable asset is time, but time without attention is useless. You can have all the hours in the world, but if your focus is scattered across drama and distractions, you'll end up broke in the ways that matter most. Here's what people rarely tell you about attention. Wherever it goes, power follows. Think about that carefully. Every moment you give someone your attention, your focus, your mental energy, your emotional bandwidth, you're making an investment. And like any investment, the only question that matters is this: what's the return? What's the return when you respond to someone who disrespected you? What's the return when you engage with someone stirring up drama? What's the return when you spend hours emotionally replaying something a coworker said? The answer is nothing, less than nothing, because you paid a cost with zero gain. Psychologically strong people understand this deeply. They treat their attention the way a serious investor treats capital. They don't throw it at every opportunity that shows up. They don't spread it thin across things that will never produce results. They are extremely selective. And because of that selectiveness, their attention actually carries weight. When they focus on you, you feel it. When they give you their time, it matters. And that weight, that's influence, that's presence, that's quiet power. Here's the practical shift you need to make starting today. Before you give anything, your response, your time, your emotional energy, ask one simple question. Does this deserve it? Not, should I be polite? Not, will they think I'm rude if I don't respond? Just, does this deserve my attention? If the answer is no, you move on. No guilt, no overthinking, no explanation. The people who build real power in their lives aren't the ones who respond to everything. They're the ones who respond to the right things. They create an invisible filter, and only what passes through that filter gets access to them. You need that filter. Build it, respect it, and watch how quickly your energy, your focus, and your results begin to shift. Silence is not surrender, it's control. Let's talk about silence, because most people today have a completely distorted relationship with it. We live in a world that rewards noise. The loudest voice gets the most attention. The person who always has a comeback is seen as clever. The one who never backs down from confrontation is seen as strong. Because of that, most people have learned to associate silence with weakness, with backing down, with losing. But that couldn't be further from the truth. When someone attacks you and you react immediately, what have you really achieved? You've validated them. You've confirmed that their words had enough impact to pull you into their game. You stepped into their space, played by their rules, and spent your energy on their terms. Even if you win the argument, you've still lost something. You've shown them exactly how to get a reaction out of you. But when someone attacks you and you say nothing, everything changes. Silence, used at the right moment, is one of the most powerful responses you can give. The human brain expects reactions. When someone throws a verbal punch and gets nothing in return, it creates confusion. They don't know what to do with it. They expected resistance and instead got emptiness. That emptiness begins to work on them. They start questioning themselves. Did it even affect you? Did you even notice? Do you think so little of them that they're not even worth responding to? That uncertainty can be more unsettling than any words you could say. Meanwhile, you've already moved on with your life. This is what real strength looks like. Not the sharpest comeback or the loudest argument, but the calm signal that says, you don't register. You're not a threat worth acknowledging. You're not even an inconvenience. There's another layer to this. Every word you speak is information. Every time you explain yourself, you reveal what matters to you. Every time you defend yourself, you show where your weak points are. And anyone who wants to manipulate you will store that information and use it later. Silence gives them nothing. No clues, no emotional reactions, no map of your vulnerabilities. You become unreadable. And people who are hard to read are hard to control. This doesn't mean you never speak. There are moments that absolutely require your voice, your passion, your presence. But those moments should be chosen, not triggered. Strategic, not impulsive. When you do speak, it carries weight precisely because you don't speak carelessly. The goal isn't to shut yourself off. The goal is to make sure that every word you say actually matters. Scarcity is the engine of value. There's a reason the things we want most are the things we can't always have. It's not random, it's psychology. Human beings are wired to value what's rare and take for granted what's always available. Scarcity creates importance. Abundance creates indifference. Most people apply this idea to money, products, or status, but they miss how it applies to them personally, to their time, their presence, their availability. Think about someone in your life who was always there, always available, always ready to drop everything for you. How did you feel about them over time? If you're honest, probably comfortable, maybe even indifferent, possibly a bit overwhelmed. And here's the hard truth. You likely didn't value them the way you should have, precisely because they were always available. There was no cost to access them. Now flip that situation. Think about someone who was selective, someone whose attention felt like it had to be earned. Someone who showed up fully when they were present, but wasn't always around. How did that feel? You thought about them more. You valued their presence. Because it wasn't constant, it wasn't guaranteed. It had weight. That's not manipulation, that's human psychology. When something is limited, it becomes meaningful. When something is always available, it becomes invisible. The same principle applies to you. If you are always available, always responding, always adjusting, always accommodating, people will unconsciously start to value you less. Not because you lack worth, but because you've removed any sense of scarcity from your presence. You've made access to you effortless. And people rarely value what costs them nothing. This doesn't mean you play games or act distant for the sake of it. It means you respect your own time and energy enough to not give it away constantly. It means you show up intentionally, not automatically. When you do that, your presence gains weight. Your time becomes valuable. Your attention becomes something people appreciate rather than expect. And that shift changes how people treat you at a fundamental level. Here is your rewritten and formatted continuation, keeping the structure, length, and meaning intact while slightly refining wording. And the most strategically aware individuals in the world use this intentionally in their professional lives, their social circles, and their romantic relationships. Everywhere. The idea is simple. Be present, but be selective. Show up fully when you do show up, but don't try to be everywhere for everyone all the time. Stop being the person who replies to every message within seconds. Stop being the one who rearranges their entire schedule whenever someone asks for something. Stop making yourself so constantly available that people begin to take your presence for granted, because they will. People always take for granted what feels permanent and unlimited. Instead, let your availability reflect your priorities. Be fully engaged when you're engaged, but pull back when something or someone doesn't deserve your full presence. This isn't about being unreliable or distant, it's about being intentional. And when people begin to feel that intentionality, when they realize your presence is something given and not guaranteed, your value in their lives rises. They begin putting in effort to keep you around instead of assuming you'll always be there. You don't need to disappear to be valued. You just need to make sure that being with you feels like something worth showing up for. The power of non-reaction is something the most strategically minded people understood long ago, yet most of the world still hasn't fully grasped it. Your non-reaction is often more powerful than any reaction you could ever give. When someone tries to provoke you, whether it's a direct insult, a passive-aggressive remark, a social media jab, or even a backhanded compliment, they are executing a strategy, whether consciously or not. What they're really trying to do is take control of your emotional state. They want to make you angry, defensive, embarrassed, or unsettled. And the moment you react exactly how they intended, they've succeeded. You've handed them control. But when you don't react, when you look right through them, when you continue your day completely unaffected, when you give them zero acknowledgement that their attempt even landed, something interesting happens in their mind. The human brain operates on feedback loops. We act and expect a response. When someone provokes you and you react, that loop closes. They know their action worked. They learn from it. But when you don't react, the loop stays open. There's no closure, no confirmation. Their brain keeps replaying the moment, searching for a resolution that never comes. That open loop becomes mentally consuming. They start questioning themselves. They replay the interaction. They wonder why it didn't land. All the mental energy they're spending is directed toward you, while you're spending none on them. They're essentially fighting a battle you're not even participating in, and they're losing. This applies everywhere. The coworker who makes a subtle comment and sees you brush it off. The person online who tries to provoke you and receives nothing back, not even acknowledgement. The ex who attempts to reach you through others and realizes it has no effect. Non-reaction isn't weakness. It's a message. It says, you have no control over me. You don't affect my emotional state. You don't exist in my world the way you think you do. And that message lands harder than any response ever could. Practice this intentionally. The next time you feel the urge to respond to something that doesn't deserve your energy, pause. Let the moment pass. Notice how it feels to remain unaffected while someone else tries and fails to shake you. That feeling is real power. Quiet, steady, and sustainable. Not everyone in your life deserves to remain there. That might sound harsh, but it's actually one of the most honest realizations you can have. When you allow the wrong people to occupy space in your life, you don't just drain yourself, you also take away from the people who actually deserve your best. There are 3 types of people you need to look at honestly and remove cleanly if necessary. The first group is adversaries, not people who disagree with you, but those actively working against you. The ones who smile in front of you but undermine you behind your back. The ones who quietly celebrate your failures and downplay your wins. Your instinct might be to confront them or expose them. You want fairness. You want the truth to be seen. But engaging with them gives them relevance. It pulls you into a fight that drains your energy and distracts you from your own progress. The smarter move is to remove them quietly. No drama, no announcements. Just stop giving them access to your time and energy. Stop letting them influence your decisions. Then continue building, growing, and succeeding. Your success speaks louder than anything you could say. The second group is chronic critics. These are people who never create, never build, never take risks themselves. They simply sit back and criticize those who do. These individuals are not your responsibility. You don't owe them explanations, responses, or even attention. Critics survive on audience and engagement. The moment you stop giving them that, they lose relevance. And the more progress you make, the more their criticism often reflects their own insecurity. Your success doesn't argue with criticism, it outgrows it. The third group is the most subtle and dangerous: energy drains. These are the people who seem like friends but slowly exhaust you. There's always a problem, always a crisis, always something that requires your attention. Every interaction leaves you feeling drained. When you try to set boundaries, you somehow end up feeling guilty. But here's the reality. These patterns don't change. The crises don't stop, because what they're actually seeking isn't solutions. It's attention, specifically your attention. You've been giving it because you care, because you don't want to abandon someone who's struggling. But constantly pouring your energy into something that never fills up doesn't help them, and it damages you. Protecting your energy isn't selfish, it's necessary. You cannot show up fully for the people who genuinely matter if you've been drained by those who don't. Cut ties cleanly, not with hostility, not with drama, but with quiet consistency. Redirect end people who add to your life instead of subtract from it. That shift alone will change everything. The reason people are able to get under your skin and disrupt your peace isn't because they're powerful. It's because you haven't yet built the internal structure that makes you truly untouchable. That structure is called emotional sovereignty. Emotional sovereignty doesn't mean you stop feeling emotions or become disconnected. It means you decide what affects you, when it affects you, and how deeply. External situations happen, but they don't automatically control your internal state. You are in charge of your emotional responses, not other people, not opinions, not circumstances. Most people operate the opposite way. Their emotions are constantly triggered by external events. A small comment ruins their mood. Being ignored triggers insecurity. A challenge turns into anger or withdrawal. Their internal world is controlled by external input. That makes them predictable and easy to influence. Anyone who understands their triggers can control their reactions. The first step toward emotional sovereignty is self-awareness. You need to identify your triggers clearly. What makes you defensive? What makes you feel the need to explain yourself? What situations cause you to lose control of your emotions? These triggers are weak points. Whether intentional or not, people will press on them. The person who reacts with anger is predictable. The person who seeks validation is easy to influence. The person who needs to be right can be manipulated. Know your weak spots. The second step is desensitization. This means gradually exposing yourself to the things that used to trigger you, mentally and emotionally, until they lose their power over you. Over time, what once bothered you stops affecting you entirely, and when nothing can easily disturb your internal state, you become someone who cannot be controlled. That is real strength. That is real independence. Here is your final rewritten section with slight wording adjustments, proper formatting, and all requested changes applied. Not by avoiding them, but by facing them with growing calm. Someone questions your competence, and instead of getting defensive, you become curious. Someone tries to embarrass you, and instead of shrinking, you remain grounded. Someone attempts to make you feel small, and instead of absorbing it, you let it pass right through you. This takes time. It requires repetition. But here's what happens on the other side of that effort. You become genuinely difficult to manipulate. People will try their usual tactics and realize they don't work anymore. And when someone recognizes that their tools are ineffective on you, they either develop respect or they leave you alone. Both outcomes serve you well. Emotional sovereignty is the base that everything else in this conversation is built on. You can learn every strategy in the world, but if your emotional state is still being controlled by external triggers, none of it will hold. Build that foundation first, strengthen it. Then notice how differently the world feels when you are no longer a passenger in your own life. Here is one of the most advanced principles, and in many ways, the hardest to fully accept, because it goes against everything a productivity-obsessed culture teaches. Sometimes, the strongest move is no move at all. We've been conditioned to believe that power equals action, that winning requires constant effort, that if you're not always producing, defending, or proving yourself, you're falling behind. So we exhaust ourselves. We engage every challenge. We respond to every provocation. We argue with every critic. We treat every situation like it demands immediate attention. But most of that activity is wasted. Most of those battles never needed to be fought. Most of those reactions added no value. And the cost of all that unnecessary effort is the loss of energy you actually need for the things that matter. Strategic inaction is the discipline of recognizing which situations will resolve themselves if you simply step aside, and which ones truly require your involvement. Understanding that difference is one of the most valuable skills you can develop. Consider a situation where someone is spreading rumors about you. The instinctive response is to control the narrative, to reach out to people, explain yourself, defend your name, and try to get ahead of it. But in doing that, you confirm that the situation is affecting you. You spend energy on something you don't control, and you unintentionally amplify the issue. The more strategic response is to do nothing. Continue showing up with integrity. Keep producing results. Stay consistent in who you are. Over time, truth carries more weight than noise. The people who know you will recognize it, and those who believe rumors over evidence were never aligned with you to begin with. Now consider another scenario. Someone is clearly trying to compete with you. They study your actions, copy your approach, and try to position themselves as your rival. The reactive move is to engage, to adjust your strategy, to stay ahead, to acknowledge the competition. The strategic move is to ignore it entirely. Not with resentment, but with complete indifference. Stay focused on your own path, your own vision, your own standard. Because the moment you enter a race with someone, you allow them to influence your pace and direction. And if you're not racing anyone, there's no race to lose. Strategic inaction isn't laziness. It isn't avoidance. It's the discipline of conserving your energy for what truly matters. So when you act with clarity and full force towards something meaningful. People who master this principle develop a kind of presence that's difficult to explain, but impossible to ignore. They're not trying to prove their worth, they're simply living it. They're not chasing attention, so attention comes to them. They're not trying to impress, so their presence feels natural rather than forced. Their calm becomes noticeable. Their stillness becomes influential. Their absence from trivial conflicts becomes a signal that they are operating on a different level. A level most people never reach because they're too busy reacting to everything around them. That's where you're headed. Every principle connects back to this idea. Guard your attention as if it's your most valuable resource, because it is. Use silence not as avoidance, but as a deliberate tool that often communicates more than words. Make your presence something that carries value, not something that is always freely available. Let your non-reactions speak for you in moments designed to throw you off balance. Be selective, calmly and clearly selective about who gets space in your life. Build an internal structure so strong that outside chaos has no place to settle within you. And learn that winning doesn't always come from doing more, but often from choosing not to engage at all. None of this happens instantly. Real change never does. But you don't need instant results. You need consistent, intentional application. One moment at a time. One decision at a time. The next time someone tries to provoke you, don't react. The next time someone demands an explanation you don't owe, let the silence sit and walk away. The next time you feel the urge to prove yourself to someone who never believed in you, redirect that energy towards something that actually deserves it. That version of you, the one who is steady, composed, and untouchable, is not somewhere far away. It's being built right now in every choice you make about where your energy goes and who gets access to it. Protect it like it matters, because it does. You are building something real. Don't let people who aren't building anything distract you from your direction. Move forward with clarity, with control, and with quiet confidence that doesn't need validation.